Welcome to Edumania, the YouTube channel which helps you get a perfect score in your GCSEs. It's just me today, I'm afraid, but we have a massively important video for you today. We're going to be looking at the 12-mark questions in the RE AQA GCSE. These are the biggest questions in the entire exam. In fact, they account for 50% of all the available marks. Basically, if you don't know how to get the marks out of these questions, you will fail. But fear not, because we at Edumania can show you exactly how to squeeze all 12 delicious marks out of these questions. First, what I'd like to show you is exactly what the examiner will see when they're marking your exam. This is a 4-level rubric. Now, I know it can look a little bit daunting when you first look at it, but I'm going to talk you through it and I'm going to show you what the examiner is going to be looking for and how they're going to be awarding points. First thing I want you to see is level 2. There's two really important parts of level 2, and that's this. It says very clearly that you cannot get more than that level, which means you can't get more than 6 marks, if you don't do two things. You need to have a reference to religion, especially in the religion papers. You need to reference the religion the paper's talking about. And you also, this is very important, need to make sure that you talk about more than one point of view. Okay, so you can't just give one point of view in your answer to this question. You have to give more than one. Secondly, these are the only questions in the entire exam where spelling, punctuation, and grammar affect the score. So I'm not saying that you can completely ignore spelling, punctuation, and grammar in the other questions, but in these ones, you need to pay particular attention, okay? It's worth even going back through your question a little bit carefully and making sure you got that right. Okay, so that's the first two things aside. The next thing I want to show you is what we're going to be aiming at, and that is level 4 right there at the top. So what it's asking you to do is to give an argument that gives more than one point of view, includes a reference to a religion, provides evidence and a clear logic in the answer. So when you're giving an answer to the question, you need to make sure that you're looking at two different sides. You're explaining both those sides clearly, giving evidence for them. That could be a quote from scripture or a source of authority, or it could just be a chain of logic. But you're going to have clear arguments, and the best thing you're going to do is try and evaluate those arguments. So you say something for one side, something for the other side, and try and explain why one side is better than the other side. Tricky thing to do, so I think the best way to show you is to look at some examples. The first example we have is this. War is never right. Evaluate this statement. Now, if you look after that question, this will be on every 12-mark question. It says, in your answer, you should give reasoned arguments in support of this statement. You should give reasoned arguments to support a different point of view. You should refer to religious arguments. You may refer to non-religious arguments, and you should reach a justified conclusion. So this is really useful. It's telling you exactly what they want you to do. If you look back at that level 4 section of the rubric, that's basically what it's saying. So let's have a look at an example answer. Here's one here. Answer A. Sometimes war can be justified by the reason, the intent, and the means used to fight the war, if the intent, the means, and the reason for going to war are just. For example, to defend your country. However, in a war, there is no denying that millions of people become displaced, are injured, or even killed. Moreover, most Christians believe that it is better to forgive rather than to seek retribution. However, War is right in some situations, but should only be used as a last resort. So, let's see what the examiner would think of this. First of all, the examiner would take that rubric that we looked at before, they would look through it, and they would decide that this was a level 2 response. It's a short answer at about 87 words, and the answer makes reference to the just war criteria and to the importance of forgiveness, but it lacks development overall. For example, the Christian view on forgiveness could have been expanded upon, and some clear evaluation could have been added to the concluding statement to help move the answer into the next band. So as it is, it's stuck on level 2. So let's have a look at another answer and we can see what a higher marked answer would look like. Answer B. Many people, for example Quakers, argue that war is never right, and in many ways I agree with them. It causes untold misery to so many people who lose loved ones on the front line. Jesus taught his disciples not to use violence when he was being arrested in Gethsemane. He said, "Those who live by the sword die by the sword." We can see from the Middle East that all the conflict there over the past 20 years has resulted in yet more conflict. The many deaths as a result of the war cause lifelong suffering for families and terrible injuries from cluster bombs and other explosive devices, which lead to trauma for those injured. War ruins a country's economy and infrastructure, leaving people homeless and hungry. They are left with absolutely nothing and may flee the country, becoming refugees. We see this in the world today, where nothing good has come from the war in Syria. War also uses a lot of money, which could be put to much better use. It is bad stewardship to spend huge sums on killing while letting so many people die of starvation. According to Jesus, we shall be judged on how we have treated those in need. This means we should be feeding and educating people, not killing them. However, it could be argued that in certain situations, war is the lesser of two evils. Although it is never good, it may sometimes be right. If a corrupt regime is in power, the only way of overthrowing it, then, surely as an absolute last resort, a nation like ours, with the means to get rid of it, is justified in doing so to help the population of that country. The just war theory is a Christian theory that tries to limit the wars being fought, but it does accept that in some cases, going to war might be justified. Overall, I think that the statement is right. Jesus told his disciples to love not only their neighbors, but also their enemies. Going to war against our enemies is hardly loving them. Right, this is a fantastic answer, and as you've probably guessed, it would absolutely be a level 4 response. It's well argued with appropriate reasoning and considerations of different points of view. There's a clear logical structure going through it and lots of evidence that's being provided to back up what they're saying. There is a clear religious content and references to scripture and religious evidence, and it's also a decent length. It's 349 words. Generally, in 15 minutes, which is how long is allocated for these questions, you'd be expected to do about 250 words, which is about half a page of A4 paper. So that's just to give you an idea of length. This one is slightly longer than that, but absolutely excellent answer. Okay, as these questions are a little bit tricky, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at one more question and then look at another answer. So here's the second question. It is always right and to give to charity and to the poor. And then again, it has that second bit, which is always the same. Evaluate this statement. In your answer, you should give reasoned arguments in support of this statement. You should give reasoned arguments to support a different point of view. You should refer to religious arguments and may refer to non-religious arguments. And you should reach a justified conclusion. So when you're answering these questions, try and tick those things off when you're going through it. Make sure that you're doing all of them. Okay, let's look at an answer to this question. I strongly support the claim that it is always right to give to the poor. This is because everybody should do something to help those less fortunate. In support of my argument, some Buddhists may also agree. This is because a key ethical principle in Buddhism is karuna, which means compassion. Buddhists can perfect this ideal by helping those less fortunate. A simple way to do this is by giving to the poor. Moreover, some Buddhists may consider those in the monastic community, the Sangha, as poor, and they may be putting into the practice the concept of dana by giving them charity, for example, food, materials, robes, etc. However, other Buddhists may disagree. This is because by giving directly to the poor, it may encourage them to use to donation in an unskillful way. For example, they may use the money to buy drugs or alcohol. This not only breaks the 5 precepts, but also would not be compassionate to them or potentially others due to the harm intoxicants can cause. These Buddhists may instead give charity, i.e. money, to organizations who help the poor, e.g. soup kitchens, Buddhist charities, for example, the Karuna Trust, activism to change laws and trading policies. Despite this, I still support my claim that it is always right to give to the poor. Although it is possible that the donation may be misused by the individual, it is also possible that the donation may be misused by the organization. There have been many scandals where NGOs have used donations unwisely to pay big salaries to charity officials. Also, an individual, rather than give money to the poor as a form of charity, could buy a homeless person food or drink. They would then know the donation had been used appropriately. Overall, I strongly support the claim that it is always right to give money to the poor, to the positive direct impact of the action can have. Giving, I believe, is the best form of metta, loving kindness to those around you. So, let's have a look at the rubric again. What grade do you think this would get? Have a think about it, then I'll let you know. Okay, this would be a level 4 response again. Okay, this question could have been approached by using arguments from any of the world religions studied in paper 1, but this answer applies the beliefs and teachings from Buddhism effectively, as well as evaluating some non-religious arguments in relation to the statement. There's a very good level of focus on the question. The writer doesn't seem to go off topic or start talking about other things. There's a clear chain of reasoning running all through the argument and good application of knowledge. Okay, they're really backing up what they're saying with keywords and quotes from scriptures and evidence. Overall, it's 338 words long, the answer, which again is longer than they would expect it to be. So, is that what you thought as well, level 4? If so, well done. That's about it for the video, but as always, we've put some questions into the description below. So what I'd like you to do now is have a go at answering one of those in the comments. Then, to really test how well you've understood some of the ideas that we've talked about today, have a go at marking someone else's answer. This will help you too. These questions are more tricky than the others, so please feel free to ask us some questions and we'll try and answer as many of them as we can. We'll try and help you with the marking as well. And finally, don't forget, if you really want to commit to doing great in your GCSEs this year, then simply click this lovely subscribe button right here to get all the latest access and updates on everything we're doing for GCSEs. Do it now, it's completely free. Anyway, thank you for watching and good luck!